I am unsure as to how this video is going to go today. I just kind of, like you will see, have just uploaded part 13 to YouTube and am currently uploading part 14 as I am recording part 15 right now. And my parents come back home tomorrow, so it'll be like, as far as carving in this corner goes, I might be doing some of it on my own, but I do want to mention the fact that with this being the corner of the basement where everybody comes and goes, it would be hard to do a video here without any interruption when everybody gets home. So that is kind of the reason why I might be back in the shop when I go back to do part 16. But here is what I would like to demonstrate today. I'll tell you the rest as I'm carving. What I'm going to do here is, you see where these little lines are drawn in underneath for the feet or the boots. I am going to carve around this edge here today, around where the lines are, to carve out what is to become the boots on each of these. May not get around to doing all of them during the time of this video, as long as it might take, but with there being 10 altogether to do it with, there's probably going to be a lot of time that's going to have to be invested in it. So I'd like to say that this is pretty much how I'm coming along with it. The work shall come and go as it simply does. This little project can take a little time to do. It can take a little time and a little work just to try to make the right steps into it. As you probably heard in the last two videos, I was having computer issues, but turned out I had to wait till I got the computer back. It's Sunday as I record, but I got my computer back on Thursday, and that has pretty much been taken care of. We're kind of glad to have that out of the way, and the thing of it is, I need my computer in order to upload the videos to YouTube. So it just so happened there was a complication trying to upload it to YouTube from my tablet, which is what I use to record them with. And I'll tell you, the little thing that I do is, when I record it on my tablet, it saves it to my Amazon Cloud drive, and then I go on the computer, and since this doesn't work with Google Chrome, I have to go to Firefox to do this. But that is, go to the Amazon Cloud Drive website, where I can open up my own Amazon Drive on the computer, download the video from the Amazon Drive to the computer, and then upload it to YouTube from either Firefox or Google Chrome, whichever one I have open. I use Google Chrome most of the time, so that while I cannot open Amazon Cloud Drive on Google Chrome, I can upload to YouTube from that. So that's probably my preferred network to use for that, because I use Google Chrome for most of what I do on the internet anymore. Firefox got to the point where some of the things that used to work with it stopped working for a while, so I had to kind of switch to Google Chrome for that reason. But of all things, I'm just kind of thankful for how things have turned out. We've been blessed to kind of get things back to the way we like for them to be. Little do we know, somebody could just have a little thought for us in our lives. We all know that God stays in control of everything. As I kind of come along on this, I will tell you all about something else I was wanting to work on. If you've ever seen my display of the Hebrew children and the flames and the idol and Nebuchadnezzar, I kind of had some blanks cut out for some time to make some soldiers to go into that. And what I did today was I kind of got to starting to carve on one of them here, carving this line along here like I know how to do it from carving my nativities. But it just so happened that things just kind of didn't work a certain way, and as I get back to carving a little more on these Santas, I'll tell you about that. But it just so happened that back before we kind of rearranged this corner of the basement and before we put some extra work into my shop, I had this little carving kit that I had ordered more recently online that was kind of like a little leather pouch that wraps up and has a little string around it that you wrap around it to keep it closed. And I don't know where I put that because it's been so long since I carved anything with it that I could have laid it anywhere when we were cleaning up this basement and cleaning up the shop and everything. So I don't know where it is right now. And what those soldiers I just showed you are made out of is walnut. So it's a harder wood, and what came with that set was a bigger knife that had a bigger blade that is much better for carving big chunks out of harder wood, and kind of works a whole lot better than these little regular knives with regular little blades do. And the thing is that haven't been able to find that for some time, ever since kind of cleaning up and rearranging. So I don't know what became of it, and I felt that to probably be a good sign that it probably wasn't time to start working on the soldiers just yet. Probably just kind of give them little steps at a time, kind of like I do with these Santas. And there had been one other thing I had forgotten about. Since I carved those flames to the furnace out of some red cedar to kind of give them kind of a fiery look, I had saved a lot of the little triangles that I cut off with the saw from around the points of the flames and all, just to try to keep those around, and thinking that when I did the soldiers I was going to use those and kind of make them into little tiny flames to kind of attach to the soldiers with some glue when I carved them, because it would be a symbol of how that when the Hebrew children were thrown into the furnace and did not get harmed, but the angel saved them, what happened instead was Nebuchadnezzar's soldiers, who he used to send the Hebrew children in the furnace, the flames actually came out of the furnace and burned the soldiers to death. So it was going to be an illustration of that. I had probably at some time thrown those away when I was trying to get the shop cleaned up, and when I cut out the blanks to carve the soldiers from, I probably thought I still had those cedar things, probably forgot that I had already thrown them away or whatever. So once I got the soldiers cut out, it got to the point where I couldn't find those little things. But I will have a little something to show as far as how I plan to take care of that I do want to tell you all about this little Santa Claus you see here that I have drawn onto this blank. I've told you in a previous video that a lady who wanted a Santa like that from me, she donated me some big cedar blocks, and it took me a while to find a place in the block that would be good enough to carve that little blank out of. So eventually that was what I found, and what I might do is, once I get finished cutting out on the saw all those lines I drew in around the blank for it to be cut out, that will be something where I will probably have all those extra pieces of cedar to use for that, and am sure it is going to work out just fine. And I already kind of have some pictures and mathematical equations in my head as to how I'm going to cut out those pieces from around the lines that are drawn and make them into littler, tinier flames that will go around these soldiers once I carve them out. It seems also to be a time when, I will tell you all, it's early October now, so I don't know what the months ahead are going to bring, but there's any number of things they can bring to us. And we know usually around October, though it's Halloween month, that's usually a time when people kind of start getting ready for Christmas. Some people do as early as November, even when it's not even Thanksgiving yet. And I don't know what part of the world you might be watching from, but here in the United States, we celebrate Thanksgiving on the fourth Thursday in November. So that is pretty much the way that works out here. And, there's just been a history of how different presidents over the years, over the history of our country, have proclaimed different holidays to be. And I tell you, I know that Wikipedia is not always accurate for their information, but I like to read them anyway. So I say, not too much to worry about here. Sometimes they do come across a little accurate, but sometimes, just sometimes, you might kind of see some of what they say or read some of what they write, and there is some of it that you might even have to do a little other research to try to find out just what other sources might have information to do a little better backup for you about things like that. Some of it I trust, some of it I may not necessarily, but there's just a lot of it that, even if it's not totally accurate, it at least comes fairly close. We're thankful for how better off in this world we are these days, and for all we see these days, all that really, really, really matters the most to us in life. There's a lot of stuff that I hope to sell all year round. I just tell you all that I see places around town where I see a lot of good stuff, learn a lot of good stuff. I always enjoy making other people's days and having other people making my days as well. I'd say, ever since sometime a while back when so much was going on in the world that I kind of had to close down my Facebook, I decided to open it back up and kind of make some changes in my follow settings. And after I made the changes in my follow settings, I just found some people that to me were a little more sensible to follow. Never had a problem with commenting on anybody's posts. There have been times in my life I've had a history of sometimes commenting on practically everything that certain people post, and sometimes not always being aware that I'm doing it, but we kind of have to be careful because I've learned there are some people who, if you comment on everything they post, they might be suspicious of you. They might think you mean to be stalking them or something. They may not understand or even have people on their friends list who don't understand. I've dealt with some people like that before. I had one lady message me one time a few years back saying, I don't mean to be mean by saying this, but you don't have to type on every post. I tell you, and so I kind of unfriended her for a while, but friended her again sometime later after I kind of got over all of my mistakable doings. And so, and there had been this one girl who she had sent me something saying that while she didn't mean to be trying to be rude, she stated that her boyfriend, I didn't even know at that time she was dating somebody. Her profile didn't say that she was, but it just so happened that she messaged me telling him how he couldn't understand why I had to type on everything she posted and reply to everyone else's comments and things, and saying stuff like, you know, I tried to explain to him how I know you, but he still thinks it's weird. If you could lighten up, I'd appreciate it. I mean, I tell you, you know, people like that are okay, but sometimes, just sometimes, perspective differs from one of us to the next. We just kind of have to watch out for ourselves and watch out for other people, see what all we know to be best in life, and there's going to be those times when you'll come across people who don't totally understand who you are or what you do or why you do it, and sometimes, just sometimes, you know, I might have a different perspective. I might think that somebody like that at least gets to have a significant other. I've never had a significant other in my life. Never been on a romantic date in my life. Being literal here, but, you know, it's all okay. That's always been my reality to accept. Sometimes, you know, the thing is that I'm an old man now, so people don't really meddle with me about it, but there were the times in my younger years I used to get judged for what I wasn't doing, used to get judged for the things that never happened. I'd get judged for the fact that I wasn't having any luck at getting any romantic dates or any relationships with women, even though I might have been trying to do it. And so I say things like this, they're just all okay. God has different choices for different ones of us. Sometimes, you know, we work hard, we try our best, we do all we can, but I'd say sometimes, you know, it's hard. It's hard in life just to convince people of that you have certain realities, you know. People don't always live in the same world as you. They don't experience the same things as you. Sometimes there will even be times when another person's experiences just might be different from yours. Sometimes there are people in this world who I might not understand because they might have experienced things that I haven't. Or maybe even with something I might have experienced in life, didn't have the same experience with it that they did. So, little lives come in different ways, I say. Our experiences just change us in life. There have been times in our lives we've tried to experience things we always misunderstood. Sometimes in our lives, there's been things some of us have wanted to try, some things some of us have been encouraged to try, but never really had the opportunity to do them. There's been times in my life when there's been things I thought I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Bible college and study to be a minister, but sometimes it kind of took me until now to realize what all the more reason was why it would have been so hard for me to get into one had I tried to do it. It would have been a little issue because, for one thing, I didn't really start looking into my Bible and studying it until maybe after I was already out of high school. When I was in high school, I didn't want to go to college. I just kind of wanted to move on and be independent with life. But a few months later, when I felt a little conviction from God to start studying, I kind of got the feeling like I wanted to preach and I wanted to learn to be a pastor. But I probably didn't even realize that in order to get into a Bible college, you would have had to have had pre-college courses. I only had basic courses in high school, so wouldn't have gotten me too far. Some of the schoolwork I had to work on in life, it was a little hard here and there, but nonetheless, I kind of managed to take care of it. There's been times in my life I've tried to write sermons now and then, and sometimes could never really make a good one, never really make a successful one. I might have been able at times, whenever I was still young and still teaching like Sunday school to toddlers in my church where my father pastored, where he's retired now and kind of serving as a lay minister somewhere else. And those days I'd give little devotional messages, and sometimes I'd say making a little devotional message was easy whenever I was studying enough to do it and really had a way of doing it and knowing how to do it, and always finding out that I had a lot to say whenever I gave those messages. The messages were loud and clear. They meant a lot. Some of the older people were impressed by some of the stuff that, as a person in my early 20s at the time, I was able to get up and say, have as much to say as I could. When I kind of studied those books and studied all those scriptures, just having myself a motive to preach. And sometimes, I could never write a whole sermon, never write one that was long enough to last, couldn't really put enough information in. There'd be times I'd struggle with it just to try to find more places of Bible to put in, kind of find ways to try to go from one topic to the next, and it would be kind of hard to do here and there, but it was just a little hard and unmanageable thing for me to do. Never really qualified to preach a sermon for the Sunday service in church. Never really was good enough to take a pastor's place. While, I will tell you that in the church I grew up in, we had some Sunday school teachers, though, who, when my dad went out of town, like if it was on a Wednesday evening when we were having midweek gathering, one of them, probably because of all their experiences with teaching different age groups might have been able to maybe get up and preach the message for the evening. And different ones of these people, just especially the ones who kind of finished up early and took less time, they'd be all among the ones I'd enjoy getting to hear. Don't know how long I'm going to make this video last, but I do think that these carving around these little feet is probably a little bit simple enough that we can manage it, we can do it, we can take care of everything it needs and be out here just to look out to some individuals. And as you see, doesn't really take too long at all just to do this. We can manage it well. We can go a long way. We can do it a long way. Things in life that seem to come to our knowledge and come to our time and show us a little grace through faith. So much that's not of ourselves, like salvation, for example. Salvation, it's by grace through faith and not of ourselves, the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Time shall come, we shall get along on these. Have little stories to share with you, and there's been a couple of different deaths that have taken place over the last 2 weeks. One of them took place 2 weeks ago yesterday, but I didn't hear about it until yesterday. It was that one of my fellow wood carvers had passed away. There was a certain one among the wood carvers who sends out the emails, and he sent out the email to many people who were still on the email list. Ever since changing my email address, I hadn't given him my new email, so I hadn't been on the list all that time, and so it was just kind of one of those things where I didn't really get the emails, I didn't really catch them, didn't really hear from them, but so I didn't hear the news about this, but looked up the obituary online yesterday and found out a little bit more about it, and kind of learned that this particular man, I mean, he had been so weak and feeble for so many years that he hadn't even been in the shop for so many years. He hadn't been working in the shop for so many years, and there was just a lot of reasons why, and so he just really wasn't all that well, not really able to do much. But we are just kind of a little more thankful and grateful for the fact that he's in heaven now, and he's rejoicing, and he's having a good time there, and more than likely, I'd say, knowing him, carving from the tree of life, probably got some wood off of the tree of life and probably carving on it. And sure that in heaven they probably got things they do and things they use just to make that kind of stuff. They probably got ways to cut the wood, ways to use tools. They probably got a lot of things there that we have on earth. We know for one thing that the things we carve on earth, just as much as our earthly bodies, are perishable. And we know that the Bible tells us that the perishable cannot inherit the imperishable. That is the reason why when our bodies die, our souls have to go to heaven. Our earthly bodies cannot go to heaven with our souls. because we are perishable upon the earth, but heaven is imperishable, and when our souls go to heaven, we are given new bodies in heaven. And there comes a time when we will all be joined into heaven together, and the Bible also tells us that when Jesus returns, the dead in Christ will rise first. And it's just very likely when the dead in Christ rise first, the way my uncle would always put it when he was teaching youth group was this. It was to say that it's like our souls will be joined with our old bodies when we are reunited in heaven. We don't know what we'll look like, whether we'll look like our young selves or our old selves, but when we all get there, somehow or another, we're all going to recognize each other. I tell you, it's like when I was a little boy, my grandmother would go out and get us KFC on Sunday afternoons, and we'd go over to her house and have it, and I'd read that little story about Colonel Sanders that was on the little white box that the chicken came in, and he kind of drew my interest then. So I didn't know much about him, didn't read much about him as a kid, but I will say as I got much older, I kind of did take much more of an interest in him, because I read about and took interest in so many more historical people, just from looking at the bookshelves at Joseph Beth and getting introduced to more people and their lives and all the ways they changed history. And just so happened that they may not have had anything on Colonel Sanders there, but what I did was I found on Amazon some old used books about Colonel that one year, it was the year 2010, maybe 2011, something like that. I took all those, found all those books about Colonel Sanders on Amazon.com and put them on my wish list on Amazon. And interestingly enough, my mom probably would have preferred to have bought me some new ones, but they were out of print. So, I mean, even though she had to order the old ones, the used ones, I was just thankful to have them at all. That's how I was. I mean, you know, if anything's out of print and I want it, I mean, just buying a used copy of it makes me grateful enough. Because there were the days before we had those markets like Amazon and stuff and eBay, where if anything was out of print or if it was no longer in the stores, you couldn't go to the store and buy it. And if it, not only that, but if it was in print and it wasn't in the store could order it for you. But if it was out of print, they absolutely could not. If it was out of print, the only time you could have it was when you could purchase it from, not purchase it, but check it out from the library. And as a kid, there were some of these animal books I loved so much that I'd check them out from the library over and over again. And some of them I kind of remembered the titles and remembered the authors. And since being grown and being able to get online and get on Amazon and eBay and all those places, a little good thing turned out, and I found myself able to go on there and find used copies on Amazon and eBay, maybe even old library copies to that matter. Sometimes I would even find library copies of books being sold on Amazon and eBay, and they could have been from a library that was anywhere, any part of the country, any part of the world. It probably kind of maybe still had a library scan code on it. Maybe it had probably a little library pocket on it for a little checkout card to go into, anything like that. But for me, I was just grateful enough to have it. Didn't matter if it had library markings on it or anything else. I was just grateful to have the book, and to be honest, if it had previously been a library copy or anything like that, and if it had been from any part of the country that I had never been through to before, or even if the library had been in any part of the world I'd never been to before, it'd be the kind of thing that to me, I'd be grateful enough just to have it at all. And sometimes even the places where it had been would make it even more interesting to me that I could have it, that I could buy it. Sometimes I might prefer a used copy of something because it might be something that costs less than a new copy. Well, and I will tell you all that I just chipped off part of the pants here. That's what this part is. So I'm going to have to set this one aside and kind of let the super glue dry on that little place it got chipped off. Otherwise, if I try to carve around that, I might end up ruining the knife, maybe. But here's what I wanted to say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've already done 7 of these Santas here for the video. I'm thinking I might do this one. This might be my 8th one. After that, I might have 2 more, which will be a total of 10 to do, and including the one that the glue has to dry on. So I'm just kind of working on these, trying to make a little good work of them, make them kind of better and make them shine like the light. And I'd say that probably just to try to keep a video a little bit shorter, I might consider myself a little more done after this. Maybe it's going to be a little work to come along and to take care of little matters the way they need to be, but I'd just be happy to kind of work along on this, kind of make it all bright and shiny for the world to see. And you know, I think of all things we need a better future in our hands. We need a better future for us so that we can see the world from a better light. Because all this stuff we've gone through in this world, you know, it was all a little hard for us now and then, but sometimes we get a little better with time. Tell you, I'm 41 years old, turned 42 in February, and sometimes I think that it's like I hear the old phrase go, old is gold. I've experienced so much in life that's probably more than people have seen in a lifetime, and these days things just come out so much better for me than they used to. Feel like as you get older, you just learn to appreciate life even more. Go through a lot, and like sometimes I've even seen some posts on Facebook now and then. I don't remember what it was, but sometimes I've heard people say sometimes in a little post, I forget exactly what it was about, but I think it was just one of those things about having hard work days where some people think that just getting through the day is enough, and or that something you have to be grateful for is enough even when life gets hard. And I commented on it saying that for me, sometimes just being alive is enough. I've been through things in life that probably could have killed me if I hadn't watched out for myself. Things in life that probably even made some foolish choices that could have killed me had I not gotten out of them sooner. been around some places and some people in life, and been in some situations where probably could have been killed by other people if I hadn't gotten out of them sooner. And messed around with some of the wrong crowds in life, in some places I shouldn't have been, probably got into messes I didn't need, but thankful I got through it all. And unlike what I said, I think that I will go ahead and, well, I tell you what, this one still hasn't been carved around the edge of the skirt, around the bottom of the pants, above the boots. So I think what I might have to do after all is maybe decide I'm going to end this video for now, take care of that one part on that last one that still needs that other step done into it. And what I want to say is that at the end of the day, I'm thankful we're all okay. I'm thankful we got through this week. Thankful things are going to be a little bit better. And have to say this, probably took off my cap too soon. That's what I do when I carve. But just want to say at the end of the day, hope everyone is blessed. Hope everyone is safe. Hope everyone is healthy. And God bless you all.